So good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Yes, no? Okay, so we've been looking at the background work before we get into the actual mobile application development. There are reasons why, because rather than just jumping into coding a mobile application, if you want to become a great mobile application developer, you need to learn these background tasks, like understanding how to come up with a concept, then how to break it down into sketches, then how to get that into a mock-up with a navigation system, and then use tools like Figma or Adobe XD and things like that to come up with some prototypes. And then also today we are talking about the color harmony. How do you match colors so that it is a greatly usable application? And then we move on to coding. So that's the proper process, proper way of developing a mobile application. Of course, you can learn Flutter immediately, you can learn Dart immediately, but that will give you an application, but it may not be a great application. It may not be a user-friendly application. Very rarely you can, when you rip off something that is already there. But if you want to come up with something completely new, you need to go through this process of understanding the background. So that is the objective of this module, to give you all the background information in order to develop a great mobile application. So today, on this regard, we are going to look at the color harmony, the theory of color. You might think, okay, why about color in a coding class? Well, as you notice, when we go through this, you will realize, of course, it's a big deal. You need to understand why color, especially color harmony. Color harmony is about putting colors together, right? Because some colors don't go together. Some colors go very well together. So we need to understand what are the best practices in getting these colors properly organized so that your mobile app looks beautiful, user-friendly, and more than anything, it has consistency. You can't be having different colors in different screens. You can't have different color than the logo, for example, or corporate colors. So we need to be very careful about selection of these colors. So to start with, let's see the story of color and how it is important for us to design that in our mobile applications. So the color has a lot of power, right? If you compare a black and white picture into a colored picture, we generally go to the color picture first, and then we try to understand the black and white picture. So it has a very vital role in design. A mobile application is also design. In fact, talking of our platform, we use two different things when it comes to designing our mobile applications, right? One is the language called Dart. So we learn the language. That is just a language, okay, like Java or Python, PHP, C#. It's just a language. We also use another UI library called Flutter. That's how it comes together. So you need to know the Dart language in order to program your mobile application. And Flutter gives us a fantastic framework, or rather library of UI kits, which we put together. While we are doing that, we need to make sure, like I said, there is user friendliness, being able to use it nicely, being able to have a color consistency, things like that. So today we're going to look at the color theory. Whenever you have something colorful, it draws your attention. Now, for example, let's say on a bluish greenish screen, suddenly you have a red colored bell on the top right hand corner. our eye goes there because it is requesting our attention. Generally, we have a bell icon to depict a ringing bell, and its red color means it is important. So we generally click and see what is there, probably a notification, right? So that's how we use colors there. And then color also bring in emotion. There are various psychological theories behind which color does what, right? For example, which color you should paint in your bedroom, which color you should paint in your living room or your dining room or a classroom. There are different colors there. So you don't see we paint classroom in red color, right? Or maybe green color or blue color. Okay, there may be shades, but you very rarely see some colors being used for certain purposes, right? So when it comes to color, there are situations where we can communicate a message without saying a single word. Now, how do you do that, right? Perfect example is color lights or traffic lights. I'll come to the scientific reason as to why we are using red color and why we are using yellow color and the green color. There is a scientific reason for that. Now, we'll come back to that. But if you look at the theory behind color, right? Theory is all about what colors work together, right? Which doesn't work together. So we look at putting together the colors that work together in a perfect harmony. Now, your logo, the corporate logo, might have certain colors, but together they might not be suitable as it is for a mobile application. So, for example, if you take blue and green, or green and red, now how do you make sure your mobile app has these color shades but work together also? So it might be a challenging thing to do. So I'll show you some tools that will help you to come up with shades that work together on any color combination. There are a lot of tools available which can pick up the suitable color theme depending on your logos, depending on your pictures, depending on whatever you want. Yeah. So there are tools that will help us to fix this problem. Right. So here's a scientific theory behind color. Right. If you look at the whole world, there is rays, there are frequencies. Okay. If you look at the top one here, if you look at the leftmost, we have something called the short wavelength. And if you look at the edge of that, we call it the cosmic rays. So we have on that side, we have cosmic rays, gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet, stuff like that. If you look at the right-hand side edge, you see long wavelength. So you have broadcast band, you have radios, you have radar, you have microwaves. So things like that, infrared. Now, if you look at the color frequency, if you look at the frequency itself, 400 nanometers to 700 nanometers, that is what is called a human visible colors. I said human because there are animals who can see more than this range. So for us humans, this is all we can see. Somewhere around 400 to 700 nanometers. That's all we see, right? And on one edge, you see ultraviolet or very bluish, sort of violetish kind of colors. On the other end, we have reddish sort of colors, infrared. Now, if you look at the frequency now, on one side we have 400, on the other side we have 700. You may also know, higher the frequency, more energy goes faster. That means higher frequency signals has more energy than signals with low frequency. So this is why red color has more energy that can travel far, whereas blue color or violet has a very low energy because the frequency is lower. It doesn't travel as much as or it doesn't contain the energy as much as a red color. So going back to our traffic light, right? The reason for red color is because it can travel far away, right? It has a lot of energy. This is why even in a, let's say a rainy, fog-filled night, you can still see red color, right? Even from far away. you may have noticed those big antenna towers on mountains have red color lights, those blinking lights. So for planes and helicopters or anyone, they can see from far away the blinking red color light. They wouldn't use blue color light because the blue color will not go far away. This also comes back to design because red color, yellow color, whatever that is on that edge, orange color, they have a lot of energy and they try to grab your attention. So if you put a lot of reddish, orangish colors to your layout, your main message might not take place. So we try to use less of those, but you can use, for example, a red color for your title. That'll grab a lot of attention from people because it's red color. But then you have to be very careful about using those high energy colors in your design. We should use less, like say maybe 10%, 20% max, and then use more of the other subtle colors so that you have a nice balance of colors on the screen. So this is color harmony, this is color theory, right? From a scientific point of view. So we expand that 400, 700 range, and then we try to map that into names. So this is what you get. You get ultraviolet, violet, blue, cyan, green, yellow, orange, red, and then infrared or darker red. Yeah. So these are the colors we see, and we call them colors now. We pick up certain frequencies, and then we call it main colors. Of that also, we can pick up 3 colors, right? We pick up 3 colors and we call them the primary colors. There's a reason for that. If you look at green and blue, between the green and the blue, we get cyan, right? Between the green and the red, we get the yellow, right? And between the red and the blue, you get sort of violetish pink color, right? And if you put all the colors together according to the primary color theory, what you get is white color. Okay? When you put these 3 primary colors together, all colors together, you get white color. Now this is also important. Why? If you look at a light bulb, LED light bulb, or if you look at your LCD monitor screen, whether it is your laptop or your desktop screen, it actually has 3 LEDs per pixel. One dot has 3 pixels, green, blue, and red. By adjusting the colors, or actually by adjusting the voltage to these light bulbs, we can change the shade of the color. Now, for example, I can get a light green, dark green by adjusting the voltage to the green light. I can adjust the light blue, dark blue using adjusting the voltage of the blue light. Same for the red. Now, if I turn on all 3 and give same energy, I get white color. If I turn off all 3, I get black color. Right? That's how you generate colors using primary colors. Okay. Now we go beyond that to understand the secondary colors. Now, secondary colors are what is in between the primary colors. Okay. Now, here, what we do is we combine the primary colors and the secondary colors to generate something called the color wheel. Now, you can see the shades are moving nicely. In fact, we go beyond that to get this one. So this is generated by combining the primary and the secondary colors and coming up with shades. Now, this is a very, very important wheel. We call it the color wheel, because we can now use this color wheel to come up with color combinations for our mobile application. Okay? So let's start and see what are the things that we can do with this color wheel. Okay, so before we get to that, there are certain features, there are certain jargon or terminology or words that we need to understand when it comes to color. First thing is called the hue. Hue is another word for color, like say red, for example, or a dark red, for example, or a lighter blue, Right? These are called names of color. Then we have saturation. How much of the color? What is the intensity of the color we have? Do we have a little bit or do you have a vibrant color? Right? As you can see here, how much of actually now when it comes to ink, how much color pigments or the particles we have in the ink, right? You know, when it comes to paint, you can either add water or thinner to get a different saturation of colors, right? You add more water, you get a less saturation. You don't add water, you get higher saturation. But without adding water, you get different saturation levels of, you get blue color, light, dark blue, light blue, medium blue, stuff like that, right? Now, we do electronically using electricity to our light bulb. So more power you get, more saturation you get. And then the value. Now this value is actually something that is going from white to black. And our color, our hue is in between somewhere, right? So this is about the shades. So this is another one we use when it comes to explain color, the value, right? It's about the darkness or the lightness, which goes from white, no color, to black, too much black, that is, right? Now, there is also another interesting one called shade. So if you take one color and start adding black to it, especially with the ink, right? When you start adding black to it, you get something called a shade, right? A hue produced by adding black. Now, on the left, you can see a bright red. On the right, you see black. Now, the second circle is after adding a little bit of black, then a little more black, a little more black. So you keep adding black and you get a darker shade of red. And if you add too much black, all you get is just black, right? If you don't add any black, you get the original hue or the original shade, we call it. The opposite of that is adding white, right? Shade is adding black, tint is adding white. So again, when you start adding white to this bright red circle, you get a lighter red, maybe a pinkish, lighter pink. And then if you add too much white, you get white. So the shade is about adding black, tint is adding white. Then there's another one, right? That is adding gray color. Now, gray color is a combination of white and black. So if you put white ink and black ink together, 50-50, you get gray color, right? And when you start adding that gray color to our hue, which was red, you get another variety of that. We call it the tone. So there is shade, there is tint, there is tone, right? The tone we get by adding the gray. So as you can see, I have red here. When I start adding gray, I get sort of a brownish kind of colors coming in, right? If I add too much gray, I get gray at the end. So these are adjustments that we can do for colors. Okay, so with that, let's come to the color harmony. As you see, what is color and what is going on? All right. So in that, our first one is called monochromatic color. Mono, as the name says, is single or one. So monochromatic is all about using single color to come up with different shades. Okay. So for example, in here, you can see we have picked up the red color on the top, and then that red color gives us various shades, right? So we basically adjust the saturation level of our color to get different variations. All right. So when it comes to a monochromatic color system, we don't have to worry about anything because the colors are nicely matching because it's a shade of single color. You can pick up any color here on the color wheel and come up with a monochromatic version, and it perfectly fits. It perfectly works in harmony, right? Because it's the same color, different shades. I'll get into a tool to show you how to generate these colors in a while. So from monochromatic, we come to analog colors, right? So the analogous color is about picking up colors close to each other, next to each other, right? Now here we have picked green and these two blue shades, and here's the color theme. Now this is called a color theme, which we use for our application. Of course, you can play around with the shades also, like in here. So we don't pick up we don't use the blue as it is, we adjust it, right? We made it darker here, lighter here, you know. So that's another way. And they also work beautifully because they are next to each other. Okay, so that is another way to pick up nicely matching colors. Then we have another version called the complementary color. Now there we pick up opposite colors, now red and green, right? Like in here, for example, Christmas flowers, you can see they're nicely matching. And there are shades, isn't it? There's a darker red, a lighter red, darker green, lighter green, and they're beautifully matching. Here also, you can see there are shades, a beautifully matching color theme. Right? This is now here you see a lot of brightness here. Here it's a bit dimmed, but they're nicely matching. Right? So you can, this is called a desaturated color scheme because it brings down the brightness of the color a little bit down so that your content of the screen highlights itself than the other element of the color. Next one is called the split complementary. Now here we take a triangle. It's a short triangle. Now we skip the one right opposite the color, but we pick the next two colors. Okay, this is the either side of the complement color. Now you get more colors to work with because there are three, and also very interesting results. Now if you look at this, you see it's a very interesting color combination, isn't it? Right, so this is called the split complementary. Triadic, tri mean three, is about taking three colors from a equal size triangle, right? So that also matches very well. Like in here, for example, a Dracula colors nicely match according to the theme. Tetra mean four. So this is where we use a rectangle to connect four colors and then come up with the color we need. Oh, by the way, now if you notice in the previous one, all the color boxes are equal in size, and we don't have to do that. As an example here, we use a larger percentage of blue and a smaller percentage of other high energy colors like orange and yellow. If you notice, we use less of red, yeah, because it has a lot of energy. Blue is a very subtle color where it doesn't grab any attention. So this way, your screen will look much more pleasing to the eyes than trying to grab attention from everything on the screen. So with that theory, let's look at some of the common theories, common mistakes we make when it comes to selecting colors. What are some of the mistakes we take? First one is called vibration. What does vibration mean? Okay, can we read this at all? It's very difficult to read, isn't it? Difficult on the eyes because the blue is also trying to get our attention, red is trying to get our attention, and they just don't go together at all. So this is called vibration, color vibration. How can we solve it? Pick up out of two, pick up any color, right? And then tone it down. Something like this. Now here, the red is as it is, same red, but the blue was toned down. Now this is much better, isn't it? Easy to read. So we can see it is blue, but it's a very darker blue. It was toned down, but the red is the same. So much better than this one here. So this is how you reduce the vibration. And then the next is called readability. So your colors should help people to read. So easy on the eyes, right? Now here is a very nice, very colorful screen. But there are too many colors here. You can see there are gradients also, from green to blue, and then yellow, red, all kinds of stuff. Not bad. It's a very colorful side, but there's a question mark. Is it easy on the eyes? Maybe not. But look at the same thing here. Much more neat, much more readable, isn't it? We're still using the same colors. We're using green, yellow, pink, all the colors are there. But look, we are using more green, yeah, less of the high bright, high energy colors. But they're there. So this is much more readable than this guy. So the point is, don't use too much colors if you don't have to. Keep it subtle, keep it neat, right? That way, people start reading it. This is called balancing the colors. You don't have to give equal weight for every color. You don't have to. And then choosing the right colors is also very, very important. As it says, every color has a message. So we need to understand how much of a certain color is the best suited. Right? Now, in this one, this is a business card. It uses a lot of bright colors. This is about a salon or a hair studio, and it's not a very academic or a corporate kind of thing. So we can have fun here. So for a thing like this, it's okay to play with lots of different colors, bright colors. It gives, in fact, a modern vibe. Whereas this one is a corporate business card, right? Stanford Financial. So it looks like someone from the financial sector. So here we can't be playing along. We need to be serious. So if these colors are used here, we may be giving a different message to the people. So here we are giving a serious message. It's very toned down or desaturated kind of color scheme. Of course, if they have a logo, we have to use the logo colors. But if not, we go with a very desaturated scheme without getting or grabbing attention unnecessarily to various areas. And when it comes to selecting colors, we need to be looking at the context. Where are we using it? Right? Now, here are some examples where you use nice colors matching up with the rest of the equipment. Yeah. So this is for a bakery. As you can see, angel food. So the word or the ribbon, the angel, and also the ring on the top is golden. And then we have pinkish cake. So this is looking like a cupcake. So similarly here, we have sticker at the back of a jacket. She devils. So this is pink to depict the lady side of it. So you selected what is right for the context. Okay, so the next is, where do we find the inspiration? How do we come up with new color schemes? Yeah? Well, look at the nature. Look at what is around you. And that gives you inspiration for colors. Now, for example, this one is a picture of flowers, right? A painting, perhaps. And from this, we can pick up a nice matching color scheme. So you don't need to be breaking your head to figure out, okay, how do I come up with a color scheme for my mobile app or a website or your cover or whatever it may be. Look outside, look inside, look at what is available to you, and then from there, you can come up with a nice color scheme. I'll show you a tool that will help you to do this. Now, here, after you use the tool, right? After you use the tool, you come to you come up with a color, let's say the scheme, and then where do I use it? Now look at this. Here's the color scheme picked up from the color scheme generator. Although they're very bright colors, now see how they're used in the card, and look at the amount of colors they have used. They've used, let's say, this orangish color in different shades, and blue is dominating color along with white and bit of green as well. And the pink they're using very carefully, one for this label and also to the tongue. So that way it's nicely balanced, isn't it? A very professional looking design, and obeying all the colors in the color scheme. So the customer may have given this color scheme and you come up with a beautiful design with that. Now let's look at how we can use or generate colors. Now let me switch to a tool from Adobe. Now this is a free tool available to anyone to use. The domain name is color.adobe.com. Okay, so this one gives you a free tool to generate colors and also to look at colors. If I go here to the home page, I have a color wheel, and then I have certain shades. Remember analog colors? Okay, if you click here, you get all those color theories we discussed here. Analog color, monochromatic, triad. Let's start with the monochromatic. Okay. Remember monochromatic? Monochromatic is about single color and having shades. Now here, in fact, I can play around. You see, monochromatic. Each circle gives me different colors. Now I can click on the second one or the third one, right? It gives me a different color shade all the time. And here's the color library. Okay, so that's monochromatic. And of course, you can play around with these colors. You can change colors. You can do all kinds of stuff. So let's go to analog colors, where you have one after the other, you see? And each one is again changeable. Each one, right? That's the master palette, right? So analog colors is all about getting colors next to each other. While you're doing it, you can see the color palette here and also here. Then the triad colors. Remember the triad, the triangle? So these are the triad colors. And again, I can move this left and right, up and down to pick up different color shades. Then I have complementary colors, one opposite each other, you see? Again, these are the color themes available. Split complementary. You know, remember the short triangle? This is the split. Then we have double split, right? This you can do a lot of crazy things to pick up colors. Square. Okay, so this is the square color scheme. And of course, you can also play around by changing shades. And compound. Now this is more than what you learn also, so shades. single color shades. Or you can go to custom. Now, this shows you what is possible to do, basically to play around to get some colors. We very rarely do that. Yeah. One thing we do is we can explore what colors are available now in the market. Or maybe I can say, for example, I'm looking for pastel colors, right? It will give me a range of pastel colors. Here we go, pastel colors, right? There we go. So these are the colors. Now these numbers, by the way, are very important. They are in hexadecimal. If we are to replicate these colors, we need those numbers. Of course, you can download them as a JPEG file or a CSS file. If you are using it for a web design, you can get it as a CSS also. Now, in our case, we will download as a JPEG file so that we can use it in our mobile application. Earth colors. Yeah, earth colors. Right. So either way, you can pick up the colors from here. Now, there are also situations where we can't, oh, actually, there's another one called trends. That also shows what is trending right now. Okay. And also from different industry. Now, this is coming from the fashion industry, graphic design, illustrations, UI, UX. Now, that's something that we could look at. Architecture, game design, right? So these are colors picked up from different industries. So if I look at, say, UI, UX, this is all coming from UI, UX colors. There. Here's an example mobile phone, and here's a color scheme. By the way, these are added by users from around the world, right? So this person, Dima, has added this to Adobe Color Library. You too can do that if you have an Adobe account. So we saw how to create something, how to explore what is already there, and also get some inspiration from different industries as well. Let's go back to create. And I'm going to go here, extract theme. Now, this is an interesting one. What does that do? Remember, we talked about looking for inspiration? Well, now you can drag drop a picture, and then that you can pick up the colors from the pictures. Let me bring in a picture now. Let's say I am bringing in a grace color picture, right? Limited colors here. I brought this picture, and then it picked up the colors from that picture intelligently and gave me this nice color theme, right? Of course, I can do a bit of adjustment. I can get bright colors, muted colors, deep colors, dark colors, or make it colorful, right? Or if you want adjustments, yes, you can do, right? Each circle here is connected to one of the boxes here. So let's replace the image. Let me bring in another one. There. Okay, I brought another picture and it picked up these colors from that picture. So that's another theme. So what does Adobe gives us? It's another one. It gives us the ability to generate colors from the color wheel. It also gives us ability to explore colors available, and also gives us a chance to bring in a picture and then take colors, extract colors out of that. Right? A food picture. Bunch of flowers I brought in, and I got this beautiful color theme. Is another one. You see, it picked up the subtle colors from the picture. So there is a bit of green and gray and a blue. Right? Very nice, very nicely picked up colors. So we need these tools in order to generate a nicely matching a color theme. So that's how you got these boxes, and then that you use in order to generate your final artwork here. Okay, so here we go into a supermarket, and where does our eye go to? Which this is, by the way, milk products, right? These are all milk. Which milk one we will pick up? Some people might be attracted to a brand, right? If you're not a brand person, you might look for what is attracted to the eyes without knowing. It's a very subtle thing, right? So you can see there are different shapes of bottles. There are boxes, right? Tall one, thick one, fat ones. Then there are different shapes of bottles and different colors, isn't it? There's grayish, brownish, stuff like that. So as you notice, design and color plays a huge role in selecting products, even in a crowded place like a supermarket. Okay, so here's another example from 4 different packaging of milk, basically. Right? Again, you can see color harmony, isn't it? The colors are very intelligently selected. And if you look at the second bottle, for example, they are very careful with the red color, right? Very little red color. Mostly, now the first one is mostly blue, a bit of pink. Second one, mostly white, and then green, and then, yeah, it's sort of a greenish, brownish one, but I would say it's greenish mostly. The last is also mostly bluish, right? So you notice the importance of selecting the right color to the product, because it plays uh, a long game. It takes you a long route when it comes to usability. All these are very subtle messages we are giving to the customer, right? It shows this is designed professionally by looking at the psychology of the people, looking at the dose of color we need for the project and whatnot. Right, which brings us to another model, although this may not be suitable or rather required for mobile apps because we are only looking at screen colors. But I thought it may be also good to understand another color model. In fact, we have 2 color models we use in the industry. For screens like mobile phones, laptops, and things like that, we use something called the RGB color model, red, green, blue. If you're planning to print something, let's say a banner, poster, whatever, on paper, right? On paper or plastic or whatever, where the colors actually have a different way of working. This is called reflective colors, where the sunlight or the room light goes and then bumps onto the things, material on the room or whatever, comes back to us as a reflection of the colors. So this is called CMYK color model. Now, if you notice, it's the same colors, isn't it? Same color names. But in this, we are selecting the colors from the primary, but the one in between. So we have magenta, cyan, and yellow. That's why we call it CMY. K stand for the key color or the black color. Black is when you mix all the colors together, you get black. Whereas here, when you mix all the colors, you get white. Okay. So in printing, when you mix all the colors, you are getting black color. That's why it's called the key color. So the digital devices like the scanners, cameras, computer monitors, we all use RGB. But when it comes to commercial printing, we use CMYK color model. Apart from these two, there is also another one that we need to understand as well. Now, for mobile app development, we don't care so much about CMYK, so we don't need to worry about that. But we must worry about the other two, RGB and specifically on spot colors. What do you mean by a spot color? A spot color has color names, right? We'll get to that in a minute. But before that, let me also show you another very, very important one when it comes to colors. This is called the color gamut. In other words, color depth. Remember, we are using devices to capture colors. Now we are using a device called a camera to capture the colors in the nature. And then maybe we are printing that on a piece of paper. Then we are using another digital device called a scanner to scan that. And then we use another digital device called the monitor to see that. If you skip the printing and scanning, you're still taking a photo from one device and looking at it from another device, because the camera has one sensor, your monitor has another different sort of output. So there is always unbalance or imbalance. How much the camera can see versus how much the screen can show you. They are not exactly the same ever, right? We need to understand that very well, because sometimes when you design something, your customer might come and say, look, why my green is dull? Why my blue is dull? There may be reasons. If you look at the picture here, the same colors on the left is available on the right. But on the right, we have printed that color. So if you design something beautifully using RGB, and when you print it on a CMYK printer, that is what you get. I need to go back to the theory, scientific theory of colors. Remember red color and blue color? Because red has a lot of energy, you get the same, almost same red shade when you are printing it. All the other colors, especially blue, will lose the energy. Sometimes if you have a very bad printer or a very, very badly calibrated monitor, you may see green, you may see blue on your screen. But when you print it, it becomes gray color because it has lost the energy while transmitting, right? May not be applicable for our mobile phone application, but sometimes your customer will give you a printout and say, look, pick up the colors from here. And then you are going to take a photograph or a scan that and then bring it onto a tool like Adobe Color to pick up the color scheme from there. And then your customer might come back and say, look, your colors are too bright or too dull. Why is that? This is the reason, right? Conversion of RGB to CMYK. Now, to understand that scientifically, we need to understand this wheel called the gamut wheel. If you look at the nature, we can't count the number of colors, can we? Now, if you take, let's say, leaves of a plant, I can't say how many green shades are there in the plant because it's unlimited. But when it comes to capturing that green color on the plant and coming back and display that on the screen, my camera has a limited number of color shade that it can capture. The nature has unlimited green shades, but my camera has, let's say, 16 million green shades. It can only capture 16 million green shades, right? And similarly, my monitor can only show a 16 million green shades. So what if the color in the nature is not there in that 16 million? It is possible, but very rare. When you say 16 million, that's like a huge number, right? To the naked eye, we can't distinguish the green in the monitor versus what is in the nature. So if we can bring in all the colors to the monitor and camera, we are okay. But that is not possible. So the circle shows all the possible colors, right? Visible color gamut, it is called. What is inside the yellow is what our monitor and our digital cameras and scanners can see. So that is called the RGB color gamut. You see, it can't show certain color shades at all. It's a technical limit. We have a bigger problem. Look at the blue color triangle. That is all the colors we can reproduce using CMYK. This is why the bright RGB colors are dull on the CMYK like this. Because the CMYK, bright green, for example, is not inside the triangle here. It is outside that triangle. Yeah. So you need to keep that in mind when it comes to color selection, color reproduction from material given to you onto your mobile phone or mobile phone app rather. Here are some more examples. Now this beautiful pink color flower on the left, which is RGB, looks very dull on a CMYK scheme, a printout maybe, or after conversion, for example. Or if you look at this bright blue sky on the picture on the left, becomes darker, dull, sort of grayish kind of thing. This is natural. So what can we do about it? Well, there are things we can do. What you do is you take this into a photo editing tool such as Photoshop and tweak the colors. You change the colors until you get a similar sort of a color scheme. So you have to compare what you see on the monitor versus what is on the physical paper. And then you need to keep some adjustments done. You keep adjusting until it is matching. Okay, remember I talked about three kinds of colors: RGB color, CMYK color, spot color. So what is this spot color mean? A spot color is a very specific color with a color name. For example, Coca-Cola red. Now that red must be the same hue or color wherever you print in the world. So you can't have a dark red in America and a light red in Africa, or another shade of that in Japan. It has to be exactly the same color everywhere in the world, right? Now to support that, of course, you can have RGB, CMYK, but to support that, there is a company by the name Pantone came up with something called the Pantone matching system. So they have printed colors or color spots, we call it, on sheets of paper. Now you may have already using it when it comes to house painting. When you go to a paint shop or hardware shop, they give you something called a color book, which you pick and choose the colors, right? Like in here. And each color has a very specific code name, right? So in here, you have 18 basic colors, and each color has a various set of shades. And when it comes to accurate color production, we use Pantone, right? Whether it is a mobile phone application, web-based application, or printing something, we use Pantone colors if you want very accurate colors. So generally, you use Pantone numbers to explain logo colors or logos rather. So if you're getting some colors from a client, you need to ask him, okay, tell me the Pantone number of your colors so that you can accurately reproduce it, right? Or you have to ask, if they don't use Pantone, you need to ask them the RGB values of the color in either hexadecimal or anything, right? Don't do any guessing work. Very, very important, because the yellow your customer is looking from his monitor will be very different to the yellow you are looking at from your monitor, right? So you got to be very, very careful with the colors when it comes to corporate colors. Could they, in fact, advertising agencies charge a lot of money in selecting colors, and every color has a story, has a reason why they use a certain color. Okay, so now, for example, if you say Pantone yellow, it is the same shade whether you buy the Pantone yellow in Africa or America or Japan or Sri Lanka. It's exactly the same Pantone yellow. Or if you want teal color, it's PMS 320 teal, and it will be the same color wherever you buy that thing. Okay, in fact, we have the same color system on our computers also. If you're using a tool like, again, Photoshop, and there is a color palette called the Pantone color palette, and if you go there and look for PMS 320 teal, you get exactly that color. Okay, so that's how you use the Pantone color systems in our real world applications. Now, by 2016, they had 1,867 spot colors, right? And they also added 112 new colors. Okay, now let's look at some examples where color harmony is nicely used. Here's the first example. You see, the consistency is fantastic, isn't it? These are basic screens I just picked up. But if you look at how they have done it, they've used orange color, which is very powerful, in a very subtle way. Starting with the first screen, the selected item is orange. Everything else is very desaturated gray color. And if you look at here, this must be very important. That's why the whole thing is orange, right? And others also similar. Now here we have used a background of orange color. Here, important button is orange color. Here again, most important one is in orange color. So likewise. So the color theme here is mostly gray. Gray also, there are lots of shades, lighter, darker, gray shades are there. And only one orange color shade. Multiple gray color shades, but one single orange color shade. Here's another one. In this example, similar color theme, orange and gray, but the orange has a variation. Orange has lighter to dark, right? We call it a gradient. Similar concept, but you see, we are giving a complete different a view or a visualization when you bring in the orange color shade, right? So the tone is different for the application. And if you look very carefully, orange is used on the top, and then for important messages, and then the circles here and things like that, in a very subtle way. Another one, right? This time it's a gray versus sort of bluish greenish, maybe ocean green kind of colors, right? A very sort of unique green blue color. But there are shades here, right? Darker version, lighter version. And here again, you can see orange once in a while coming, like in the number. Price is in orange because it's important. Total price is also in orange because it is important. And here again, you see most important things are using those bright orange colors. Everything else is with the same blue-green theme. Another example, right? mostly greenish. Now here we can see colorful icons, which is fine because the icon is a self-contained product. So you can have colorful icon, no problem. Now, if you have things like that, if you have colorful object that you want to place on the screen, you can allow those objects to highlight, those objects to color the screen. If you look at this example here, your icon, which is a colorful one, is the most dominant product on the screen. And everything else is having a very subtle, their own sort of attention, right? So same here. Your icons are basically giving the message and everything else is very subtle. That's another way to look at it. Here's another very colorful one, more of a IO-ish kind of colors. Now, lots of these are different schemes, by the way. Lots of gradients are used, right? Including the background is gradient. We can also see semi-transparent kind of thing as well here. So again, another gradient, another gradient. Now, one problem with the gradient is these are, if you use vector format gradients, which is the case here because we will be resizing of objects, that may be slow on a older mobile phone. So be careful when you're using high-tech colors like that, where you're recreating the gradients every now and then. So when you go from one screen and then come back to the original screen, it has to repaint the whole screen with the gradient or whatever it may be. That might have a very tiny, very slight delay from a user's experience. That's why you need to be careful. So if user thinks the system is slow because of this, then the perception we are giving to them is also very bad. So we got to be very careful with that. Right, which brings us to the summary for today. So we looked at colors, right? We realized colors are available everywhere. Yeah. So although it's very simple to choose colors, but we realize there is a very serious theory behind colors. So you got to be obeying these color theories, whether it is mobile app design, web design, graphic design, or even your dress. I think the girls are very much aware of the color combinations. We boys, we don't put much attention. But look at this. A t-shirt, a trouser, color of the shoes, and the socks. They all match because it is picked up from this color palette, right? So you are free to experiment. You can, so this is why sometimes the unmatching colors stand out, right? So you got to play the colors in a very harmonious way. Color harmony is all about what is matching with the other and what is not matching with the others. So we need to look at from a matching point of view. And if you can't match immediately, you need to get help from a color matching software like Adobe Color Wheel or Adobe Photoshop itself, which will help you to do the matching for you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of lesson today. So we looked at colors today and the importance of selecting the right colors for our job. Next week, we will look at one more thing. That's actually, we'll start coding next week. So before we jumping into Flutter, we'll be spending some time looking at the language underlying this whole process called Dart. So we'll try to look at the Dart programming language and what it can do. So my advice to you is, if you have done any object-oriented language before, it may be Python, it may be Java, it may be PHP, C#, anything for that matter, go back and polish yourself a little bit more, right? Go back and look at the notes, especially things like object orientation, how it works, what are some of the keywords like polymorphism, inheritance, stuff like that, encapsulation, how it works, what are the interfaces, things like that, okay? Extending classes, objects, whatnot. abstraction, for example. So look at those theories and come back, then your journey will be easy to understand. And also with Dart, we get some important stuff that we generally do not get from other languages. That is, Dart runs inside the browser also. Dart language has a compiler that can convert Dart to JavaScript that runs inside the browser, which is very cool, right? And also Dart support a lot of asynchronous programming, meaning rather than running something in a linear fashion, you can have components that are running parallel to each other. For example, you may have a thread downloading a file parallelly while the other one is showing something on the screen, right? So all those things are very easy with Dart programming language. And we are going to use those techniques inside our Flutter application later. So we'll look at it, and please polish up your object orientation principles from the previous lessons. Any questions?